All right, so I'm going to talk to you about mixing and how important it is to have a really good output in your mix. And the reason why is because many times I hear beats that are distorted, and even though they're really good beats, they're distorted, and there's really no excuse for that. And actually, that just happened recently with the Beat This competition on Ill Music, where there was one beat I really, really liked, but I didn't vote for it because of the mix. It was distorted, and I thought, come on, like there's no excuse really. So anyway, basically, it comes down to just keeping things really simple. So I'm just going to show you how I do my mixes, okay, and how important it is to make sure that you're not in the red. And the thing is, I'm not a mixing expert, not by any means. It's just that I like to, I just want to show you guys how I do my mixes, and then you can get some ideas of how you can do yours. And even though some of you may say, oh, I'm a beat maker, I'm just going to send my mixes to a studio and have them mixed professionally and all that. Yeah, that's fine. But let's face it, a lot of us probably can't afford to go to a studio or don't want to spend the money or just feel like doing it ourselves. Okay, so in this case, this is why you should learn just the basics of mixing, and it'll make a big difference when you put your beats up online, especially if you're trying to sell them. You just want to have a nice, clean sound. All right. So this is how I start mine. Okay. So for this beat, it's a 4-bar loop I have. And what I usually do is I load up all the clips just like this. Okay. And then I set up a loop here. Okay. From the first to the 5th bar. So I have it looped, and that way it just goes over and over again, and I just can let it play while I adjust the levels and all that. All right. So let's go into the mixing view here. All right. So what I have here is, I already labeled each track here, but I'll go and I'll mute each track, okay? And then I go and I preview each one at a time. Okay, so I know that's the kick, so I put kick. Okay, so so kick, snare, hat, bass, horns, keys, and piano. Okay, so I put them all on mute, but that's just, I did this ahead of time. And so now that I labeled all the tracks, I know what's what, and what I'll do is I'll start to slowly bring in each track, okay, and to make sure the levels are good. So actually I'll start with the kick, and you can see it's going into the red. I mean, like this, it would go into red, okay, but I keep it at 0. And for a kick, I don't want it to go too much to the 0 point, I try to bring it down. But then again, it all comes down to how it actually sounds. Okay, so I'm bringing this down just a bit. Now there's the snare. Now you can see the snare is going into the red, so I'm trying to get that out. And then the hat. Now the hat's a little loud for this, so I'm going to bring it down. Then my bass. So far, nothing's in the red. The horns, keys, and the piano. So everything seems to be okay. It's not in the red, and I didn't do this intentionally, like for this tutorial. Actually, I wanted to have something in the red. But basically, it's just if you have something in the red, you want to make sure that it's not, okay? So it doesn't matter what kind of instrument it is, just get it out of the red, all right? Now, some of you may say, oh, well, you can let it go into some red and have the final mix go into the red and all that. And yeah, you could, but to me, I look at it as there's a reason why there's the red signal, right? There's a reason why we have that. And it's to warn you that, hey, your mix is loud, it's hot, okay? So you got to get it in check. So once you do that, you get everything that's below the red. Okay, it doesn't matter even if you have, let's say you have to, some instruments will be quiet, so you got to bring them up, and it won't be in the red, but you just got to increase them. Or up here, you could increase it, the gain or whatever. But let's say you have it like this. Okay, everything's out of the red. Now it's about just fine tuning it, making sure that each track sounds good together. Okay, so that's why it's important to have this play over and over again. I got this loop, so let's check it out. Oh yeah, and before I continue, I don't know how it's going to sound, the final output, because I'm doing this on headphones. And I always mix on my speakers, so that's another thing. If you can't afford speakers, then use your headphones if you have to, that's fine. But just be aware that, you know, a lot of headphones, the manufacturers will add extra bass to the headphones because they want it to sound better and cool and all that. So instead, you know what? Try to get some speakers if you can. But if you really can't, use your headphones. So just remember that most likely everything's going to sound bassier in your headphones. So that's going to affect how you mix. Okay, so it's important to also check your mix later on other devices and make sure, you know, other speakers, make sure that it sounds okay. All right, so but for this tutorial, I'm doing on headphones, so I'm just going to try my best to make sure it's not too bassy. All right, so this actually sounds pretty good to me. All right, nothing. I don't have to really do too much to it, and I think it's because, you know, when I recorded this beat, when I made this beat, I made sure that my levels were good to begin with. You know, and that's really important to understand. You know, is that I always look at it as it's garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so whether you're sampling something and it's a really bad sample, a lot of crackles and hiss, or if it's just something that's very loud and distorted, you know, you can't really fix that, right? So you're gonna have to, you know, try to make sure you bring in a sound and use sounds that are just sound good to begin with. All right, so you don't want something that's just going to be really loud in the mix. And if it is, then you adjust it before you get to the mixing stage here, if you can. You know, if you can't, then you fix it in the mix. But that's something I try not to do, is the fix in the mix. You know, that's something you got to remember, is try not to say that, fix in the mix. You don't really want to do that. You want to make sure it's fixed before you get to the mix. All right, so we have the levels that look good. Okay, everything seems to be okay. Then what I do at this point is I send everything to a bus here. Okay, so I already got this here. Like, I send it to a stereo bus. I already got one. It's the mix here. Okay, because on this one, this is my mix here. You see, I brought this all the way down because if you watch, okay, here's my master channel over here. All right, so I brought this down. Let's see here. If I bring this up, it starts to go in the red there. Let's bring this one up here. That's getting louder and louder. So that's why I bring this down, but I'm going to show you something here. I mean, I'm going to bring the master down, but this is my stereo bus. All right, so for this one, the reason why I want to bring this up is because I want to have the effect that I'm going to add here. I'm going to add, I have this mastering effect here. Okay, isotope ozone, and this one's really dope. All right, so you can get, you know, really detailed with this, but what I like to do is I just go with one of the hip hop master. All right, I just go with this, and let's listen to it now. Let's bring this down a bit. All right, then I'm going to click the bypass so you can hear it before and after. All right, so it adds a nice layer of mastering to it. Okay, nice little layer to it and all that. But the thing is that what I've done with my mix already, the way it sounds, like the way the sounds are to begin with, they sound good already. So I don't really need much to add to this, okay, to add to the mix. So I do add the mastering anyway because it does add some dynamics to it, stereo imaging, all that stuff. But I don't really need to add too much. So that's why, like, let's see here, hold on a sec. When I play it with the mastering on it, watch the level here. It's going up here. Now the thing is that the more I lower it, the less I'm going to have of that effect, okay, of that mastering effect. So I try to keep it, you know, close to zero as I can, so it does go a bit into the red, which is not too bad because then look at the mastering on the left here. So it's not bad, okay? I mean, it's a bit into the red, but that's not too bad because it's only at certain peaks where it does that, you know. And that's the important thing too, is that if you get certain parts of your mix that peak into the red, it's not a big deal, because as long as not the whole thing is in the red. If you have certain peaks, that's fine. Usually it's something like a snare, for example. You know, it just, every time it smacks, you know, it goes up pretty loud, okay, whatever. So the thing is that I add the mastering to this and try to keep it up, because I want to try to get as much of the value as I can. But then the main thing is this master output. Actually, it's over here too. But the mastering output, make sure that that's not into the red. So let's check it. So look at these levels here. They're all good. This one's good. And the main mix, it's only on the snare where it does that. But the snare sounds okay to me. It's not too loud. Let's check it. It's not too loud. So I could maybe bring it down just a bit. Bring it down. See, that looks a little better there. All right, so I'm happy with this mix. Sounds good to me. All right, and you may not have this plugin. If you can get it. But if you don't have it, that's fine. Then it's even more important to make sure that your levels are correct and make sure that your final output is good. And then what I do is, when I finally have the mix like this and I like it, it sounds good, then I'll go and I'll add some EQ or whatever I need to do to it or whatever, you know. So for example, here in Sonar, I've got this Pro channel. You've got compressors and EQs and all that. So I really like the EQ they have here. And, you know, a lot of times I'll use this for certain instruments or whatever. But the main thing is just to get the mix sounding good to begin with. So once you get this, you can leave it like this, or, you know, I might just go ahead and add some EQ or whatever, or some compression to certain things. And once I do, then I just export this whole mix as a WAV file. I bring it into my audio editor, and then from there I can bump it up to an acceptable level. Because when I finally export this, because it's not in the red here, it's going to be, you know, kind of quiet a bit. So I bump it up there, and then the mix sounds a lot better because it's nice and loud. But I don't want it too loud, you know. And that's the main thing that I'm trying to tell people with their mixes, is just to try to get everything out of the red on every track and on every sub mix, the sub bus I should say, and also for the final mix. Try to get everything out of the red. If you have certain peaks in the red, that's fine, as long as it's not too much. And then after that, if you can add some kind of mastering effect, go for it. And then even then, you got to check your levels and all that. But the bottom line is just check your levels and make sure everything's cool, and then you'll be good to go. All right, so if you like the video, click on like, make sure you subscribe, and go make some beats.